I'm Jack Whitaker, and this is the NFL Game of the Week. Because of the exciting races in both the AFC and the NFC, this week we will show the top 2 games of the week. The Giants versus the Cardinals, and the Chiefs versus the Raiders. First, we take you to Cardiac Corner, otherwise known as Oakland, California, where the Raiders faced the Chiefs to determine the winner in the AFC West. John Madden's Raiders came into the game with a 20-game regular season win streak at home and have won 6 out of the last 8 meetings with the Chiefs. Led by the AFC's #1 offense, #1 passer, and #1 heartthrob, George Blanda, Oakland seems to be living on borrowed time with their many last-second victories. On the other hand, Hank Stram's Kansas City Chiefs came rolling into this game at their peak. 5 straight victories in the #1 defense. Kansas City, like Oakland, needed a win or a tie in this game to ensure a playoff berth. Even a loss would not knock either team out of it, but would make it entirely dependent on what Miami does in their last game. Naturally, both teams wanted to win, which would give them the division title and the home team spot in the playoffs. Today's game would be another in a series that makes this matchup one of the fiercest rivalries in the history of the game. The Kansas City Chiefs had first possession. Dawson and his offense hoped to be able to run on the Raiders with his power backs Ed Podolak and Wendell Hayes. But throughout the first half, in fact, throughout the game, the Raiders' front 4 and linebackers plugged the holes and stopped the Chiefs' ground game. Dawson's air attack has not been particularly effective for most of the season. In the first half today, he chose to throw rarely, and when he did, he went long to his wide receivers, but was just off target. Darryl LaMonica and the Raiders, on the other hand, came out passing. But on his first series, LaMonica was intercepted by linebacker Jim Lynch as the Chiefs had the first break. It was to be the only break of the game for Kansas City, and they would not be able to take it over the goal, as the Raiders' defense, led by Dan Connors, number 55, stopped the Chiefs at Oakland's 13-yard line. Kansas City got on the board first, however, as their sure-footed place kicker, Jan Stenerud, hit a 20-yard field goal, and the Chiefs led 3-0. The rest of the first quarter belonged to Oakland. On a beautiful drive that took over 7 minutes, LaMonica led his team downfield. His strategy was to pass only when he needed to convert third and long yardage situations to 25 Fred Biletnikoff. Actually, it was the perfect strategy to use against the Chiefs, who have the league's #1 pass defense, but are vulnerable to a running attack that can move quickly through the middle on draws and traps, thereby negating the aggressive Chiefs' front 4. This is exactly what Oakland did, as time and again Marv Hubbard, Urett Dixon, and number 23, Charlie Smith, moved behind the straight-ahead blocking of their line deep into Chiefs territory. Considering the success of the strategy, it was surprising when LaMonica chose to pass once near the goal and on 3 straight downs failed. So George Blanda came in and tied the game at 3. Known for their passing, the Raiders' running attack had shown Kansas City early what was to be in store for them all day. The second quarter was almost a carbon of the first. Oakland shut out the Chiefs in this quarter as their only offense seemed to be the returns of number 45, Robert Holmes. Dawson continued to disdain the short passing game and instead tried to hit the bomb. But the pressure from Davidson, Oates, Keating, and Klein was intense, and Dawson's passes were slightly missing their marks. Rookie defensive end Tony Klein, number 84, was playing a great game, beating Dave Hill off the ball and to Dawson on one occasion. Not given the time to pass, Dawson tried to negate the rush with draw plays, but the Raiders' defense was ready for this too, and left Podolak with the title of an old song, "Nowhere to Run, Nowhere to Hide." Even the nasty Norwegian, Jan Stenerud, failed to connect from 29 yards out on a key series midway through the quarter. And later in the half, Dawson himself killed another chance for the Chiefs when he threw an interception on a short pass for Taylor, as Kent McLuhan set Oakland up on their 45 with a minute to go in the half. From here, LaMonica put his 2-minute drill into action. Behind perfect protection, he hit Fred Biletnikoff. Number 25 sidestepped Jim Marsalis and went to the 8th. LaMonica came right back with the same call, as he would work on Marsalis all day. But the second-year cornerback played this one perfect, and with 6 seconds left, the Raiders had to settle for another three-pointer from the old man. Having controlled the ball in the game for 30 minutes, the Oakland Raiders took a 6-3 lead into the locker room at the half. We'll be back with more exciting action on the NFL Game of the Week. The first half had seen a truly ironic pattern emerge as the Raiders ran the ball almost exclusively, controlling the clock while Dawson and the Chiefs had relied on the bomb, a weapon usually associated with LaMonica, and had failed to go anywhere on the ground. But the game was still close. If Dawson's big play attack could work, and if his defense could give him the ball more often, anything could happen. Both these ifs never came to pass. Dawson continued to throw long, but Oakland's secondary was right there with his speedy receivers. And he had to give up the ball again as Hank Stram's offense would fail to reach midfield even once in this third quarter. For the rest of the quarter, Oakland's offense consisted of one man and one man only. His number, 44. His name, Marv Hubbard. Remember them both. Kansas City will remember him for a long, long time. With his offensive line beating the Chiefs' front four and standing them straight up, Marv Hubbard ran rampant, carrying 7 straight times from his own 40-yard line. After a key pass interference call took it to the 9, Hubbard went at it again and pile drove his way to and over the goal. A second-year man from Colgate, Hubbard would gain 90 yards today in his greatest game as a pro, and completely dominated the Chiefs' defense. On a replay of the score, watch the Chiefs' Willie Lanier, number 63, as he futilely tried to stop Hubbard's 6-yard burst to pay dirt. The third quarter ended with Oakland again controlling the ball and the clock, as the Hubbard drive consumed 6 minutes. The sellout crowd in Oakland's Alameda County Stadium was witnessing the execution of a team by their own method, as the Raiders' ground game, not LaMonica's passing, was the difference in providing Oakland with their 13-3 lead. The fourth quarter saw the Raiders' defense seal the fate of Len Dawson and the Chiefs. The Raiders' front four would now blow in with abandon to sack the Chiefs' chief. Even the unexpected was expected by the Raider defense. It was just one of those games in which one team had the other team's number. For Kansas City, the game had become an exercise in futility. Darryl LaMonica put the icing on the cake midway through the final quarter as he hit Fred Biletnikoff with a patented LaMonica pass in Biletnikoff corner. He had only thrown 19 times and completed only 9, but all had come at the right time. And this touchdown to his brilliant 6-year receiver from Florida State gave the Raiders an insurmountable 20-3 lead. Stenerud later added a field goal, but the ball game was over. The Oakland Raiders had done it again. Last year, they beat the Chiefs for the division title, but lost to them in the AFL championship. This year, taking a page from the Chiefs' own book, a powerful ground game and a stingy defense had given Oakland another division title. The Chiefs now have only one hope left. They must shuffle off to Buffalo and light a fire under the Bills. For if Buffalo loses to Miami, the Kansas City Chiefs do not make the playoffs. So today, the Oakland Raiders can paraphrase a line from Madison Avenue. We may not have tried harder, but we're number one, at least until the playoffs. From Oakland, California, we go to the gateway of the West, St. Louis, Missouri, where in another crucial game, the Cardinals meet the New York Giants. Even the most optimistic Giant fan wouldn't have dreamed the New Yorkers would be in championship contention. But the Giants have won 8 of their last 9 games and are assured of their best record since 1963. The Cardinals are out to avenge an earlier loss to New York. Such was their indignation at that defeat that they won their next 3 games by shutouts. The Giants attacked first. They hoped to get an early lead so the Cardinals would be forced to pass and abandon their strength, their great running game. This is what worked so well for New York in the first game between the two. With St. Louis keying on Ron Johnson, Tucker Frederickson ran well. The 5-year veteran from Auburn has been overshadowed by Johnson this year, but his return to first-year form is as much a reason as any for the Giants' success. Fran Tarkenton got the early lead he wanted when he rolled right and flipped to tight end Bob Tucker, who one-handed it, then ran over Jerry Stovall for the score that put New York ahead 7-0. Early in the second quarter, the Cardinals mounted a good drive that brought them to the New York 38. But Jim Hart tried to go deep to Davy Williams, underthrew the ball, and Scott Eaton came up with the interception. The momentum was with New York, and they took advantage of it. Tarkenton hit reserve setback Bobby Duhan over the middle for 22 yards. The first downs were coming for New York, and Tarkenton continued his hot hand. Don Herman made a fine catch, kept both feet in bounds, and the Giants were in Cardinal territory. Then the scrambler in Tarkenton took over. Unable to sight an open receiver, he took off. When the enemy defense came up to greet him, Clifton McNeil got the ball. Tarkenton had gained 10. McNeil nothing on the play. But the lateral was a portend of things to come. Tarkenton was throwing well, and he stuck with it. But his pass from the 17, intended for Tucker, was misplayed and almost intercepted by Roger Wehrle. Then the record Cardinal crowd of over 50,000 got an indication just what kind of day it was going to be. A penalty had moved New York back to the 32, but Tarkenton, rolling out again, passed to Tucker, who lateraled to Don Herman on the 20, and the receiver took it the rest of the way. Another look at this unusual play shows Tarkenton again couldn't spot an open receiver. Roll left, and then the ball began its journey from Tarkenton to Tucker to Herman. It was the Tarkenton-Tucker combination that had killed the Cardinals in the game played in Yankee Stadium. Tarkenton had his greatest day then, throwing 5 touchdown passes in the stunning 35-17 upset. Now, leading 14-0, it looked like history was going to be repeated. And how? On the ensuing kickoff, Chuck Latterette took the ball upfield only to be wiped out by Joe Green. The jarring tackle caused a fumble, and New York's Tom Longo recovered. A repeat of this crucial turnover reveals the kickoff actually went to Roy Shivers, but at the last moment, Latterette cut in front of him and took the ball. Latterette is the Cardinals' ace returner, so it may have been planned strategy, but the results were disastrous. 7 plays later from the 3, Tarkenton faked a handoff to Johnson up the middle, then swung out around his right end and went all the way, unopposed, for the touchdown. The spotlight, which was to be fixed on a duel between 2 great runners, Johnson and MacArthur Lane, was squarely shining on one Francis Asbury Tarkenton. The 10-year veteran quarterback has had some great games in his career, but never a completely great season. 1970 is that season. Down by 3 touchdowns, Jim Hart had to put the ball in the air every time. The Giants had accomplished their goal of eliminating the crushing St. Louis running game. Now, with a minute remaining in the half, and New York in a prevent defense, Hart began to hit his passes. Dave Williams took a toss 33 yards to the Giant 34. Hart dropped back to pass again and was really racked by defensive end Fred Dreyer. Despite this, his screen to Lane was complete, and the 220-pound back powered his way to the Giant 18. With 9 seconds left in the half, Jim Bakken's field goal gave St. Louis their first score. New York 21, St. Louis 3. We'll be right back with more exciting action on the NFL Game of the Week. In front, 21-3, the Giants began the third quarter with another concerted drive downfield. Fredrickson and Johnson were running equally well. Each gained over 60 yards, and Johnson passed Alex Webster and Eddie Price for a Giants season rushing record. But this was Fran Tarkenton's game, and the pass was the main method. Tarkenton teamed with tight end Tucker on 2 successive passes to put the ball deep in Big Red country. It was the Giants' strategy to keep the ball away from St. Louis's great all-pro Larry Wilson. And this was made easier since Wilson seemed to be overcompensating to help out his left cornerback, Miller Farr. After Tucker's 29-yard gain, St. Louis stiffened and forced a Pete Gogolak field goal from the 20. But the Giants were even further in front, 24-3. Then, for the first time today, the Cardinals got the big play from their offense. MacArthur Lane, who was held to merely 26 yards rushing today, took a screen pass from Hart and raced 78 yards behind a wall of blockers to the Cardinals' first touchdown. Lane, who had run for the most yardage in a single game this year with 146 against the Redskins, had been in third place in the conference's torrid rushing race. But today, his statistics suffered badly. Still, he received a hand from the disappointed St. Louis followers. The Giant lead had been cut to 14 points, but they immediately drove back 67 yards. A huge chunk of it was on a bomb to Clifton McNeil, who was dragged down by Roger Worley. An interesting sidelight in today's game was that prior to it, St. Louis had won all 8 of their games on synthetic turf, while the Giants had lost all 3 they played on carpet. But this obviously was no factor today, as Tarkenton spiraled a perfect pass to Ron Johnson for a touchdown that brought the score to 31-10 and virtually ended St. Louis's slim hopes for a comeback. St. Louis got the touchdown back with suddenness. Jim Hart was having more success now with New York in a prevent, and he hit his all-pro tight end Jackie Smith, who took it 47 yards for a Cardinal score. There was some momentary joy in St. Louis, but it was obviously way too little, way too late. A repeat of the long touchdown pass shows that the 235-pound Smith did it on his own. He was trapped by 3 Giants, but broke all 3 tackles and bulled in for 6 points. St. Louis had to get the ball fast to have any chance. So with the score 31-17, Jim Bakken kicked a squibbler, which is becoming more prevalent in the NFL. Any doubts why? Just watch. But Bobby Duhan finally cornered the elusive Pigskin, and the Giants were in business again. In fact, New York was in such command that they controlled the ball for 21 of the 30 minutes of the second half. St. Louis's last play of the game showed the frustration of 22 years, 10 coaches, and 2 cities since a title of any kind. And during the wild melee, number 17, Jim Hart, showed why a quarterback deservedly is called the smartest man on the team. The Cardinals had been favored in this game because of a more balanced running attack and a defense that ranks with the best anywhere. But the Giants today prove the adage that the best defense is a good offense. Their complete domination of a fine St. Louis team put them in first place, tied with the Dallas Cowboys. Each has a 9-4 one-loss record. St. Louis drops to second, 1/2 game behind. If New York wins their last game of the season against the Rams next Sunday at Yankee Stadium, they will be the division champions, even should Dallas win. The reason is their record within the NFC's Eastern Division is superior to the Cowboys. So after week 13 of this 51st NFL season, few races are settled, and with 1 week to go, anything could happen. And the two teams it could happen to are the ones we've seen here today. Two of Destiny's darlings, the Oakland Raiders and the New York Giants.